Am I going to be alone for the rest of my life? Where are all the lesbians? I'm going to say it out loud. I feel so jealous. It's soul crushing. I can't take it anymore. I'm dying. Sorry, I'm going to start crying again. It's made me feel so unloved. I really want to give some visibility to the crushing loneliness that lesbians feel. So I've decided that I'm gonna plaster my feelings all over the internet, because I know I'm not the only person who feels this way. I've seen the Reddit threads. This might be a bit of a self-therapy session. This whole topic has just completely taken over my life and just made me feel like that's it, you know, I'm just never gonna be happy. And on that note, hey, I'm Una, and I'm a lonely lesbian in search for community. I'm also on a mission to bring more LGBTQ+ people outdoors, and I'd really love your help to achieve this. So if you could interact with this post and hit that sub button, you'd really help me out. First of all, I don't know if any of you have the same experience, but everyone in my life right now has a partner. I never thought that this was something that I was going to care about so much. I honestly thought I had way more self-assurance. But when your dating life has been dead, you start to question everything and yourself and your worth and just thinking, am I going to be alone for the rest of my life? I just don't have many friends who are single, let alone gay, so I feel so completely jealous. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it out loud. I feel so fucking jealous of my straight friends and how easy their dating life just seems to be. The dating pool for lesbians is so small that it just makes it really hard when you break it down between the people that you can actually date in your age group with your interests, living in the same country as you. It just makes it very, very difficult to find someone who's compatible. Another thing that I get really insecure about is the fact that one day when I'm actually going to find someone that I like, that I feel that I'm compatible with, I'm going to be so freaking desperate that I just feel like I'm gonna give off this repelling energy and that this person is just gonna be so scared. You know, I just want to give a shout out as well to trans people, because as lonely as I feel being a single lesbian, like, I can't imagine how isolating it must be for trans people to just live life. Total alienation that I feel towards my friends and family. I made the mistake for a while of trying to discuss this topic with a lot of my straight friends, and how to put this, I find that it can be more damaging for you to talk to someone about a topic that they have absolutely no clue about. I'm so tired of feeling so completely alone in my experience. For a while I didn't even have any lesbian friends, but that's actually really important. I do really recommend that you try and build yourself a queer female circle to talk about these topics. And I know that's way easier said than done, but use online resources as well. I'm really trying to get more into Reddit, and I have been on Reddit recently and seen some really interesting conversations. I feel alone as too. The lack of lesbians around me makes me feel like I'm chasing an impossible dream when I think about finding a partner and getting married. Yeah, I have the same feeling. Worst of all, I doubt myself a few times every year as to whether I'm actually lesbian or not, and the lack of community means I always have to figure it out on my own. Just reading Reddit comments at you now, but it's been very helpful just to know that other lonely people exist, you know? I've understood that you can't really expect other people to cater to your version of your life. But why is it for me to have endless patience I'm angry. I'm angry, and this anger has just consumed my whole entire life. I am so angry at just being myself. How is that? How sad is that? Oh my god, I'm gonna start crying. I don't wanna cry. Ugh, this is not my week, my year, my life. This is another thing that I've been trying really hard, is to avoid getting sucked into this victim mentality, because it's so easy to do that when you are a minority. Okay, third point of everyday struggles is lesbian representation on social media. I have a bone to pick with the world. Why is all fucking lesbian representation couples? Every time I see lesbian representation on Instagram, it's always couples traveling, living their best van life, couples doing a day in the life vlog. Everyone just seems to post a representation that I can't relate to, that I want so badly, and that triggers me when I see it, because I'm just like, I'm never gonna have that. I mean, let's not even go down the road of how fetishized lesbians are in porn, or how men think it's super cool that you're a lesbian. It's still catering to that male gaze, you know, and that just pisses me off. Anyways. A little bit about me. I was in a straight relationship for 6 years. I didn't really have a queer experience growing up. I think I kind of really shut my queerness out of my head when I was younger. It was something that I didn't really ever consider to be a possibility, just because growing up in France, there was absolutely zero representation. I had one friend that was out, and he was actively getting like seriously bullied, so it was not a safe space. And then I fell in love with the woman. We had a classic U-Haul lesbian experience. When I was adjusting to this relationship, I definitely had to overcome a lot of internalized homophobia that I hadn't even realized was inside me. I was pretty sure that I was bisexual just because I dated a guy for 6 years, and I used to say that bisexual people didn't exist. I was also certain that this was going to be a hookup and that it wasn't going to be a long-term thing. I kind of regret not having these experiences as a teenager. I feel like I would have learned so much more and been so much better off than I am now. Because I'm so lost. So lost. But yeah, it was really hard finding my feet in terms of who I was. It's so difficult having this straight path, because it's always a reason for people in your life to invalidate your current lesbian experience. Part 1. Adjusting to women. Just having to deal with rejection as a lesbian is so difficult, because you put yourself out there because you have to, because that's dating, you know, you just have to put yourself out there. But as a woman, we're not used to putting ourselves out there, because when you're in a straight setting, you just don't really make any of the effort as a woman, which I think should change. I actually sympathize with men on this topic. It is hard that society expects men to make all the moves, but damn, women are terrifying. Women are, it's a whole other ballgame. With women, you never really know what they're thinking. Women play mind games, and actually I will give you this tip. You have to really put in the work to communicate your feelings, which I'm really not very good at. They're not going to chase you if you're not showing interest. How the hell do you flirt with women? How the hell do you approach women? I definitely have not mastered this, and this transition has been very isolating for me. Being a late bloomer lesbian means that you have to go through a lot of these experiences so totally alone, and because you're an adult, most people expect you to just have your together, which is just not the case. The wonderful thing about dating women, for me, is that women are so thoughtful. They're always gonna go out of their way to make sure that you're okay, or ask you how you're doing. Part 2. Long haul disappointment. When I came into my sexuality, once I got over all of the coming to terms with who I was, I just was so excited to be able to discover my full authentic self. We often have this conception that coming out is going to free yourself and everything's just going to make sense. But the reality of exploring this new part of yourself and of discovering this community is actually very different. I got very lost in queer culture. I felt like I couldn't really connect to any of it because that's not really who I was. I've always had this internal battle of, I don't want to live in the city. I just love nature so much, but I convinced myself that I had to be in a city to be around a queer community, and that has brought a lot of struggle and grief to my life because I just feel like my queerness and my love for the outdoors just don't go together, and I just feel like I can never really truly authentically be myself. This loneliness that I feel, I just want it to go away. I want to give light to those feelings, and I want you to know that it's completely okay to feel that way. Coming out is not like a switch where you're like, yay, now I know who I am. You're actually going to have to go through a massive transformation, not just of yourself and your identity, but also of your entire life, of how you view society, how you fit into society, how you interact romantically with people around you. It changes, honestly, everything. And I have not been good at adapting to that new reality. I've been completely resisting this new reality, and that's why I'm so miserable. So don't do what I do. 3. Resurfaced trauma. This one memory of, it's not that deep, but it is. I remember when I was 14, I went over to take my friend's hand because 14-year-old girls do that. And she ripped her hand away and said, "I'm not a fucking dyke." She said it in French. What she said was, "Je suis une gouine, moi." And I didn't even know what the word gouine meant. I'd never heard that word before. But I could tell from her tone that it wasn't something good. And this memory just stayed buried in my head for so many years. And there were so many other examples of that in my childhood. And I never got to treat them and deal with them growing up. And having to deal with them now is just a whole thing. So my advice to you on this would be, take your time. Coming into your queerness is a long journey. Don't ever force yourself to do something that you're not comfortable with. Part 4. I've been so desperately trying to find a community. Now that I only exclusively date women, it's a very isolating experience where I have had bi friends and I've had male gay friends, but I just don't feel like there's the same level of isolation. Yeah, I feel like gay men don't really have the same experiences as us. I feel like they have such a better community life than we do. Last year in Barcelona, Barcelona is built for gay men. I love gay men, but after a while I just got really, really tired of being able to hook and lesbian in absolutely every situation that I was in. I love bisexual babes. I understand the trend that bisexual girls have of falling into relationships with men because it's so much easier to find men to be with than women. I think I was just really disillusioned with my own vision of myself and descended into a chasm of loneliness. I think I was still just applying straight conditioning and mold to my queer experiences. And it's so hard to deconstruct those. And then I just end up gaslighting myself, and I'm like, am I making it more difficult for myself? Am I really a lesbian? Yes, you know you are, otherwise you wouldn't be making this video. Sometimes I feel like being gay has been like a whole rebirth. I just want to feel like I'm not gonna be alone forever. And leading on to our next topic, dating. I'm actually gonna jump back to a video of me talking about this from a couple months ago. Let's talk about online dating, which I think it is triggering for anyone who's single, whether you're gay, straight, or whatever in between. Lesbian dating was humbling. I've never been ghosted so much in my life. I've had some very mixed experiences. London was great. I feel like I just wasn't in an era of my life where I had the emotional maturity. Barcelona, online dating, motherfucking god, what a show. I really could not hack it. I just got ghosted all the time. It destroyed my confidence on another level. Oh my god, the ghosting. I cannot. I would send messages and just never hear back, or you'd get in a conversation with someone and then you think it was going somewhere and then they would just never respond. So what's the point? What was the point of even trying? That's what it got to, and so I stopped trying, and the apps are not for me. Not for me. I always tried to prioritize going to events. Ended up going to a lot of club events, which is, this is not where you meet people. It's where you go and boogie with your friends. It's not where you meet people. I found myself making myself have one night stands because I just couldn't bear the nothingness anymore. I actually went to this meetup in Barcelona when I first moved there, and there were, I'm not even kidding you, there were about 40 people who showed up. There was one other woman. One. And I probably was too forward and I showed my interest too much, and she was in an open relationship with her boyfriend, and I did go to this one lesbian event in Barcelona, which was more casual, but I just ended up feeling so stressed out. I went by myself and it was so busy, so overstimulating for me, and so I just got so overwhelmed. I just didn't know how to engage in those situations. I just became so awkward. Like, I really want to meet people organically, but that is so hard when you're queer. It's so hard. You don't have the same opportunities as straight people. If you have a group of queer women friends, then it is possible. It's totally possible. But I get a little bit stressed out at how intense and incestuous these groups can be. I feel like with lesbians, you're either in the whole drama-fueled, incestuous chaos, or you're completely out of it. I have found it really, really hard to integrate those groups, and I have found it really hard to feel like I belong in those groups. Over time, I'm learning how to interact, how to find these groups, how to identify them. It gets easier, it definitely does, but it's been a freaking journey, I'll tell you that much. So why am I even making this video? Oh my god, when I was writing out all the things that I wanted to talk about, I was almost crying. I think this video is gonna honestly heal me, which is good. I felt like I was probably still operating in this heteronormative mold that I had created for myself since adolescence. I just was trying to copy paste what I knew from being with men. But I just want to say this again. It takes time to come into your sexuality. And I think something that I haven't been very good at is giving myself the grace of evolving and adapting to my new identity and my new version of life. And that doesn't happen overnight. Gosh, I'm gonna say this because I know that I have to say it to myself. Don't ever give up hope. There's no solution. I don't really have a solution for you, but I know that we will get through it. Let's wrap it up. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I would really love to grow my community, and if you have any, I would love to hear about your experiences. So if you have anything to share, please put it down in the comments. I also just really appreciate you being here. Lonely, I'm Mrs. Lonely.